Hey, welcome back everybody, and welcome to November. So here it is, Sunday, November 3rd, right at 1 o'clock. Temperatures at 69 degrees. Humidity is in the low 60s. And if you can believe it or not, this is the most fall feeling day in the last week or two. No kidding, we had temperatures this past week in the mid 80s. Unbelievable. I think that has something to do with the El Nino, La Nina. Feel free to comment on whatever we got going on with the weather here in the Northern Hemisphere. And I'm out here to do just a few things, considering the weather is nice enough to do so. I'm gonna pop the tops on the top boxes, do a quick assessment of food stores, and based off what I see and find, I'll form a plan for this next week, whether or not the hives need to be fed. And one of my main reasons for coming out here, I plan on getting into, I think it's hive number 6. It's the one down here with the brick, and the only one. And I marked them with a brick about 2 weeks ago, which was the last time I was in the hives on October 20th. I marked them with a brick. We'll walk around and I'll show you, because I don't know, they've just, they've been a little on the weak side as far as I'm concerned. So I marked them just as a reminder to really pay more attention to them. I come out to the yard almost daily or every few days, especially in the last 2 weeks, and I have seen a noticeable decline, unfortunately, with the front entrance activity. It is number 6. So the last inspection, if my memory serves me right, they didn't really have a whole lot of anything going on. Not a lot of food stores. I haven't been able to find the queen in a while. They don't have any signs of a laying worker, which I've experienced a few times this season. Brood, I talk about brood, but this time of year, the queens do start dialing back a lot. And then they start building up around the winter solstice, which is about the 3rd week of December. But it's not uncommon to see less brood this time of year, so that's not really a really good measurement whether or not the hive's doing well. So this is what I'm talking about, though. As you can see, in comparison to the hives to the right and left, 15 and number 12, there's just not a whole lot of bees coming and going from number 6. So I plan on getting into them after I pop the tops on the rest of the hives, just to see kind of what they got going on. And it seems like a good time to make a decision before the cold weather gets here and stays here for quite a few months. All right, let's get into them. Down here at the hive in the first position, like usual, number 16. There's still queen right. She's definitely dialed way back on brood, which is to be expected this time of year. So I just went through a few frames out of curiosity, but that's pretty much what I was expecting to find. So that's pretty much it. I don't really plan on doing that much for the rest of the colonies. I was just curious with this one because I reduced them 2 weeks ago from having a medium top box that they weren't using. They have a little food, no brood, but they're queen right, so we'll see what happens throughout the winter. The next colony's looking great, ton of bees in the top box, but this was the first one that I put one of RP Bee Works small hive beetle traps in, and it's continuing to work pretty well. Again, nice traps, appreciate it, Robert, for sending me some. Still need to make my order so I can outfit all the hives, but quick look at this one. That's what you want to see in the top box. Ton of bees, the box is heavy, all good things for this time of year. Down here at number 2, as you can see, they got some bees up in between the inner and outer cover, but check this out. I mean, good Lord, this colony's got a nice population. A lot of mouths to feed, like somebody had mentioned on social media, but that is perfectly fine. I'd rather have a nicely populated hive going into winter that I'll have to feed heavily, which will make a good split in the spring, versus a colony that I'm struggling to keep alive. All right, down here at number 11, they are in the 5 frame, even though they only have 3 frames. Queen right, looking right at her. A lot of nice honey stores and food stores, and no kidding, she has a pretty nice brood pattern. So that is just something to consider, that she's still laying brood and they're raising it. So yeah, no kidding. Nice, very nice food stores, surprisingly. I think that's what they needed. I think they just needed to be reduced from a 10 frame box down to a 5 frame, and then a 5 frame to a 3 with the feeder. And I think that little bit of food just really helped them out. This is very interesting. I'm down here at 17. I just picked up the back of the box to feel it, and I was surprised at how heavy it is. And no kidding, I have not fed them in quite a few weeks, and they are producing wet frames, several wet frames, to include several cap frames. The entire medium box is almost filled. And I'm pretty sure, I'd have to look back on my videos, but I'm pretty sure when I equalized all the colonies, at the best, each colony had about 5 frames, the center frames, of capped food, or capped honey for food. And this box is almost completely full. So that's good to know. I'm gonna mark them with a brick, excuse me. So I know this is a full box of food, or this colony has a full box, in the event one of the other colonies just need a boost. All right, down here at 13, and I looked ahead, but surprisingly, this is the single deep that I provided the feeder from 16, because 16 just continues to not use feed for whatever reason. And I'm starting to think something's going on with the feeder, because this colony did the same thing. So it's been a few weeks, it's most likely rancid, but I'm gonna dump out this feeder and take a closer look. Maybe something got down in there and died. I don't know, but that is extremely unusual and rare, considering this is the only feeder, not colony, this is the second or third colony this feeder's been in, and not one single one has touched it. So if anybody's experienced something like that, please feel free to leave a comment so we can engage in some dialogue. But I've never experienced this before, so I'm kind of puzzled. All right, let's see if I can do this with one hand. So I just took the feeder apart. As you can see, a little debris down in one of the feed tubes, which looks like leaves or something, maybe bees. No excessive mold or mildew to include down in the feeder itself. So okay, I was kind of hoping to find something. At least that could give me some sort of educated guess why multiple colonies have not touched this feeder. But here I am back at square one. So again, please comment if you've experienced something like this, or if you just have an idea what could be the cause. Down here at number 5, so I pulled a few frames. I forgot to record it, but they actually have a ton of food, the previous hive, and I found the queen on one of the frames. They're looking great. Here at 5, who has had its moments throughout the season, meaning they've been kind of jerks occasionally, they're actually looking pretty good. As I say that, the right side of the top box seems to be pretty empty, which is fine. It's not really that big of a deal, honestly. More curious to see what this thing's been doing. So since I just pulled it out, the bees are doing a good job propolising it. I'm actually going to move it to the other side of the box, since this side doesn't really have too much going on. It seems like it would just make a little more sense. So that's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, this box is pretty heavy. It's got some nice weight to it. No need to really dig through them at all, which is a good thing. Moving right along down here at 15, nice weight. They're heavy. A lot of bees up in the top box. I can see a lot of capped honey, drawn wax. I mean, they're fine. Really no need to dig through them at this point. All right, as we move along, that brings me down here to old number 6. And quite honestly, first thought, I'm really surprised to see that many bees in the top box. So considering how they looked in the past, I'm just going to take the time to go through a few frames. Maybe they got some brood in the top box. That'd be a nice change. I'll share anything with you, of course, so stand by. I'm assuming I have not been able to find the queen because I was looking for a marked queen. Right there. No kidding. Unmarked queen. So maybe all the times I've been coming out here, she's just been in the process of getting started again. I'm gonna find her, get her caged, get her marked and released. Well, ain't that something? And actually, things are starting to make a little more sense with this one. I just went back through and checked the frame that I pulled the queen off of and the frame next to it. I don't see any eggs, so before I mark her, in case she's a virgin queen, I'm just gonna get into the bottom box to check for eggs. And if I don't find any brood or eggs, there's a good chance she's a virgin queen. And at that point, I just really need to keep an eye on this colony, because it is not the time of year to have virgin queens, because there's really not many drones, if any, left. But we'll see, because the weather has been unusually warm, so I guess you never know, right? All right, no kidding. Not a lot of not a lot of anything going on in this bottom box. Most frames look like this, which is not what you want to see. Excuse me, man. All right, so there's no rush to make a decision. So just like some of my mentors say, if you're in your bees and you're unsure, just give it a week. Create a plan within that following week and do something. So for now, what I am going to do is nothing. I'm going to get into them next week as long as the weather permits, and come up with a plan then. They definitely need some food, that's for certain, and I need to figure out if there she goes. Oh, if she mates or not. Right down here at number 3. I actually have a decent amount of weight for being a single deep in an 8 frame because of the feeder configuration. But yeah, I'd say that's a nice amount of bees. Nothing comes to mind with them. I think they've done just fine throughout the season. They just didn't pack away enough food to keep a medium box on them, so I'll keep an eye on them, of course, regarding feed and food stores, but for now, I'd say they're just okay. A quick look at number 7. They're in the second to last position. Nice weight, a lot of bees in the top box. This is that colony I've said a bunch of times. I had 10 shallow frames in the medium box, which is why they have probably a ton of propolis and burr comb on the bottom side of the inner cover. But yeah, overall I'd say they're pretty good, so I'll just give them another week or two, and any warm day, come out, do the same thing. Just a quick check. All right, very last hive, number 9. A lot of bees up in the top box. Not as heavy as number 7 with just the lift and feel technique, but a lot of bees in the top box. A lot of burr comb. You can see some new comb, and I don't know, judging off one of those previous hives that had a lot of wet frames, it seems like they're finding food somewhere, which is kind of crazy. But then again, as I say that, with the warm weather we've had, we have plants that are in bloom that typically aren't in bloom. I'm gonna pull a frame or two just to show you, and then that'll wrap it up today. I mean, check it out. That's a nice food frame, but this is what's crazy. Having wet frames in early November, and they are just packing away the food, so all good things going on here. All right, that does it for me, folks. It's just about 2 o'clock out here, less than an hour, which is exactly how things should be this time of year. But yeah, the hives are looking good. To my knowledge, after just briefly looking through them, as y'all saw, the only one I continue to need to pay attention to is number 6. However, the one major positive thing that I saw today was obviously they have a queen. I am not sure if she's made it. I'm leaning more towards the side that she is not, but like I've said a few times, with the warm weather that we've had, who knows? Stranger things have happened, so maybe she can mate in November, which would be kind of wild. And then I marked number 17 because they have a completely full box, and like I said, as I was going through the colonies, I'm pretty sure I equalized all the colonies that had a lot of food stores to include that one. So the fact that they have another full box with a lot of wet frames just makes me believe these bees are finding food from somewhere. But yeah, the rest of them look pretty good. Even number 11 in the nuke, queen right, a lot of nice food stores, so all is well for early November. All right, stay tuned for the next segment in this month's video. All right, just a quick mid-November update for the next segment in this video. So it's Tuesday, November 12th, about 12:15. Temperature 70 degrees, humidity's pretty moderate. I think it's in the right around 50% or so. And let me show you what I just discovered before I put my suit on and everything. So I was out here a few days ago. I was out here on Saturday and everything was in good order. So this happened since Saturday afternoon. Now, just to take a look, see what kind of flight activity we have since the weather's pretty nice. That caught me off guard. I was thinking I didn't leave any loose frames out. Looked around real quick and sure enough. So I have not gone over here to make an assessment. This is number 6. They had the single brick on top indicating that they were struggling. I don't want to say that in the sense of not much lost, because the last inspection in the previous part of this video, I did find the queen. She was unmarked. I left her unmarked because she may not have been mated just yet, but I'm just going to put my gloves on, suit up, put my veil on, and see if I can see if anything's salvageable really at this point. As I say all that, something does come to mind. Quite a few years ago, I think October of 22, and the reason I remember that is because I was away for a while, for a few months, came home in October, came out and looked at the bees, which the yard looked completely different then, and there was a box almost in the same position, give or take, and the whole box, I think it was 2 deeps and a medium or something like that, was like way back in the woods. I don't think it was foul play. I don't think anybody came back here to vandalize, because what sensible person would pick up a box of bees? I think it's wildlife, as in deer. And with all that said, and due to this, I'm about to set up the trail camera back here. So again, I'm gonna put my veil on, put my gloves on, try to piece everything back together, see if anything's salvageable, and go from there. If not, you know, any losses, obviously not pleasant, but if I could not have asked for a better hive for this to happen to, because I have a feeling it was kind of on the way out, and this just moves things along. But enough of me yapping, let's get into them, see if I can save anything, and we'll just go from there. All right, just when you thought you had a total loss, I just separated these 2 frames, and I'm gonna try and be pretty careful so I don't want to squish the queen, but no kidding, they have bees. So I'm just gonna set everything back. There's nothing going on in the bottom box, and since most of the bees are concentrated in a few mediums, I'm just gonna reduce this entire colony to a medium. So put the medium box on top the bottom board and close them up, but they actually might be salvageable. All right, just got everything cleaned up. I keep looking over here and back in the brush because I'm missing 3 frames, which is kind of odd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I remember right, it should have been a full box. So that's quite the mystery. There's a decent amount of bees. They're not going to survive. So what I'm thinking about doing, actually what I'm going to do, I'll probably record it here, but I'm just going to move these bees into the hive right next to it, since if any of them are used to this location due to foraging and whatnot, they can come right back into this one. And there's a few bees just hanging out on the ground. So again, I could not have asked for a better hive for this to happen to. Hate to say it, but that's the reality. Is they were probably on the way out. I was just giving them more time than they needed, and then I'll store. That's a nice 8 frame of drawn comb that I'll store on the stacks that have the I forget what the stuff's called, but to prevent wax moths. But yeah, I'm just going to combine this one into the one next to it and call it a day. All right, simple fix since number 6 was right next to number 3. Shook a bunch of bees on top of the inner cover. It seems like they are finding their way to their new home just fine, which will give them a little bit of a boost. And that's pretty much it. I just came out here to check out the flight activity since the temperature's in the low 70s, and you just never know what you're gonna find. Yeah, wait till I show you this. So as I was bringing the boxes down the path to the backyard just to dry out before I stack them for storage, I've had this set up the entire year since I moved all my equipment into the Hoover hives, which was I think around May or so. And we have a bunch of game paths. I mean, this one, we got a bunch of critters that come through, but I made this for myself. But these are all natural. And I just happened to notice off in the distance, because remember the medium box was missing, what, 2-3 frames? I just happened to notice off in the distance. Holy smokes. I didn't even see this originally. All right. Well, this is pretty interesting. So that's one foundation completely destroyed. And then this is another one. So that's at least 9 frames. All right. This is a first. Oh, there's the other one. Yeah, there's all... I wonder if we have a damn bear back here. There's the remaining 3 frames right there. All right, here we are. It's about mid-November. Actually, it's Saturday, November 16th, right at 1:30. The temperature is 65 degrees, humidity is 59%, and believe it or not, we actually have had some cold weather over the last week with lows down in the low 40s. So let's walk out to the yard, see how the entrances are looking. Disclaimer, I was out here about maybe 15 minutes ago and there's some pretty nice flight activity. The bees are definitely enjoying these warmer days, but as you know, warm winters, bees and colonies usually end up using more food. So let's walk around, take a quick look at the entrances, and then I'm just gonna go through and tip the back of the hives just to do a quick check on weight, and then maybe pop a few tops and look into the top boxes for the hives that have them. All right. I have been coming out here a little more often lately due to the incident with number 6, which was from about a week ago. I also moved the trail camera back into the yard. But if I come out and I find any more hives tipped over, obviously I'm only going to be able to know what happened versus really trying to prevent anything. But I do have something in the works, preventative measures, and I'll share that as soon as I have it set up. All right, yeah, from my view, hopefully that came up. Let's see, I'm just walking down the line. So far all the hives have some pretty nice activity. Even number 11 over here in the 5-frame nuke, but they only have 3 frames of bees, or 3 frames and maybe 2 frames of bees. But last time I looked at them, they managed to make some very nice food stores with the 1 gallon of sugar water I gave them. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna do. Just a quick weight check, like I said. Pop the tops if need be, or if I think they just need a little further investigation. But otherwise, that's what you want to see. You want to see some nice activity during warmer days. All right, let's get to it and check on a few things, and that might be it for mid-November. Oh yeah, totally forgot to mention, I'll be out here in a little bit as soon as the batteries get done charging to treat them. So the last time I treated the hives with oxalic acid was mid-October, and that was the last of 5 treatments. And here it is a month later, and that's all I'm going to do throughout the winter. Just treat them monthly with 1 dose. I've been moving pretty quickly. I'm down here at number 5 already. Like I said, just popping the tops. And what I've seen so far is most of the colonies they're concentrated up in the top box and semi-clustered, kind of like this. I'm not pulling frames right now or doing anything like that. Just a quick check, more out of curiosity than anything, just to see kind of where the bees are at. And something else I'm doing, I'm sliding the top covers forward because there's an entrance up here, and that should help a little bit with ventilation. Surprisingly, I haven't seen too much moisture on the inside of the inner covers, but usually cold winter months you'll pull it back, but I'm pushing it forward just to help out with ventilation a little bit. All right, here it is, Sunday, November 17th, right at noon. Temperature 66 degrees, humidity is in the low 60s, and if you can believe it or not, the overnight low, which was right at sunrise, was 35 degrees. I already popped my head out in the bee yard earlier today. Bees are flying, very nice activity. That was about an hour ago, and it's warmed up a little since, so we'll go take a quick look at that. But what I am coming out here to do is, it is time to feed them some pollen. So I filled up a quart mason jar and weighed it at the same time, zeroed it out and weighed it, and that actually equates to a full pound of pollen powder. So, oh yeah, the hives down there, if you can see that or not, we'll walk closer. They are very active. This hive here down on the end, still being in the shade, I imagine it will become active as it warms up and the sun hits it. So again, it's right at noon. I'm gonna set this out in the same spot that I usually do, which is over on the street side entrance on top of some cinder blocks. I'm gonna give it about an hour and then come back and check to see, one, if the bees found it, and then if they have, I'll show y'all what that chaos looks like, because it gets pretty hectic, but it's also pretty cool to see. So here we go. All right, here it is, 1 o'clock. So it's been an hour since setting out the pollen sub. It is now 68 degrees, so it's warmed up a little bit. I think that's about the high for today. But again, tonight's temperature should drop down into the mid 30s, maybe low 40s. So let's go take a look at the 5-gallon bucket and see if the bees have discovered it yet. Flight activity is still pretty nice. Again, thanks to the warmer winter days we are probably going to experience this entire year. And let's see what we got going on. Oh, how about that? That's pretty surprising. I thought the bees would be on the pollen sub by now, but they're not. All right, well, that's that. I'm gonna set a 2-hour timer, so I'll come out around 3 o'clock and check on it. And if they don't discover it today, I'm pretty confident they will discover it by tomorrow. So stay tuned, and we'll see if they find the pollen sub in the next 2 hours. All right, you guessed it, it's about 3 o'clock. So it's been 3 hours now since setting out the pollen in the 5-gallon bucket. Let's go see if the bees have discovered it yet. So just like earlier, We got some nice activity on the entrances. They're flying. It's starting to cool off just a little bit, but man, they are active. All right, let's see if they've found the pollen sub. Okay, how about that? We got a few on the sub. It's a start, and it's kind of late in the day. As you can see, the sun is setting or starting to hit or fall behind the trees. Mark my words, tomorrow midday, this thing will be booming. All right, cool. Glad to see they found it. All right, here it is, Wednesday, right before noon. It is currently 70 degrees and 80% humidity. And I am walking out here to take a look at the pollen feeder because it has been 3 days now. And I'm very curious to see just how much of the 1 pound they've consumed in the last 72 hours. But first, let's take a look at the hive entrances, because it seems like we have some very nice activity, and we sure do. That is just awesome to see. Okay, let's go take a look at the pollen feeder. Man, they're looking good, all of them. As long as they can hold on until about March. Oh yeah, check that out. Get a little closer. That's what I'm talking about right there. Golly. Alright, so it took a few days. It took about a day or two really. But yeah, they are eating this stuff up. I imagine the rest of that will be gone in another day or two. I'll do a final assessment, but for now I'm just going to guess they'll consume about 1 pound of pollen sub in 5 days. I'll give them a break. I'll let it run dry for maybe 2 days and then resupply them, but that is awesome. All right, here we go again, everybody. So it's Thursday, November 21st, 3:10 in the afternoon. Temperature is 61 degrees and the humidity is 38%. And I just popped my head over into the yard from the street side to check on the pollen feeder, which, if you didn't see that video yesterday on our Instagram and Facebook stories, you can still check it out. But that was the 72-hour update since supplying them pollen sub. And within 72 hours, they were hitting it pretty hard. And in fact, today it's all gone. So 96 hours, 1 pound of pollen completely consumed. But that's not why I'm coming out here. Check this out. So we had a little bit of a windstorm last night. Nothing too bad, but no kidding. Another hive knocked over. And obviously this one got knocked forward, where the last one got knocked to the backside of the hive stand. So I'm just going to suit up, get everything put back together. I do have some bricks scattered throughout and some full-size cinder blocks over where the pollen feeder is. I might take a few of those and really just start securing the hives, because something is obviously going on. And I do have a trail camera on the very far side down there, so I'm going to pull that, look at it. I'll post a picture-in-picture view if I see anything, but I'm kind of doubtful since it's on the far side of the hive stand here. But second time in just a few weeks, so I really hope I can get to the bottom of this sometime soon. Well, it seems like they are still thriving, and now I think they see me as the enemy. But as you can tell, I haven't even changed since coming off work. I just came straight here to take care of this. I'm trying to determine what piece of wood broke, because this is This came from somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where just yet, but they look pretty good still. I mean, they look like they're still thriving. Everything was together for the most part, so just gonna get them back together, like I said, and try to secure them as much as possible. Okay, it's just from the side of the lid. I'll fix that later with some wood glue. Nothing to really worry about now. But yeah, time to start securing the hives with some bricks. All right, here it is, Friday, November 22nd, almost 4 p.m. The temperature is at today's high, which is 50 degrees. Humidity is 44%. Overnight temperatures were actually freezing for the first time this year. I think the low for us here was about 30 degrees. And if I'm walking out to the yard, I got something to show you. So if you haven't caught the stories, or actually the earlier parts of this series of videos of what's been tipping over. Check out this picture-in-picture. So no kidding, my trail camera caught about a 200 to 300 pound bear. So for the last few hours, I have been installing an electric fence. So this is obviously the gate. This is all I can do right now. It took me a few hours to get this up, but hopefully this does the trick. I was testing it earlier. Everything seemed to work okay. You can probably barely see that light, but Paul was nice enough to lend me his tester, and I was able, there we go. So yeah, it's reading 6,000 volts, and that's only with a few hours in the sun. So tomorrow, with this being out here all day, it should fully charge the battery. I may test it again. Hopefully it reads maybe 7,000 volts, but 6,000 should be good enough. So this is a first for me. If you've watched the channel for some time, I have never had an electric fence out here, so I really hope this does the trick. This morning, the last 2 hives were knocked over. Luckily, I had the thought to come out here and check with the freezing temps, and sure enough, I was able to get them put back together before too many bees died. The bear was on camera around 2:30 in the morning, so I'm pretty sure it chilled the brood, but it seemed like the bees were still clustered, so we'll see. All right, here it is the following morning. It's just after 7:30. Temperature's about 40 degrees. Let's go check on the fence and the yard and see if it worked. Kept old Yogi. All right, seems like it worked. Awesome. All right, here we go. Okay. That is what I'm talking about right there. Seems like the old fence is still working. This has been on my mind, so nice to see everything's still intact. All right, folks, that does it for us, and that does it for the month of November. Pretty interesting month. Very wide range of temperatures, from very, very warm temperatures and activity out here looking practically like spring, to temperatures like this morning, sub-freezing. In fact, it was about 22 degrees here at the house, and as you can imagine, the hives are showing no activity right now. But yeah, that does it for us. Tune in next month for a summary of December, and before we know it, we will have the spring buildup happening right around the winter solstice, which should be about the 3rd week of December. I honestly haven't looked that far ahead, but typically it's around the 21st or 22nd, I believe. But yeah, the queens will start ramping up the amount of eggs they lay to start building the spring foraging force. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Cole's Farm here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. We'll see you next month.